The 66th anniversary of the Palestinian al-Nakba invokes power will be enhanced. The resistance in the face of the conspiracies that target our present and future. Huge marches and speech rallies are held across the homeland in support of the national principles and the upcoming presidential elections. Demonstrators take to the street in Turkey to protest the Erdogan government's responsibility for the mine explosion catastrophe. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Irado Krikorian with the news in English. The 66th anniversary of al-Nakba reminds the Arab nation of the tragedy that befell the Palestinian people on the 15th of May 1948, when the infamous Ben Gurion announced the inception of his usurping Zionist entity on the Palestinian Arab land. The announcement was the result of joint Western efforts as well as an Arab disability that caused the Palestinians to lose 20,000 out of 27,000 kilometers, the historical area of Palestine. This was before the remaining area was lost in the wake of the 1967 setback. The Israeli occupation authorities started their massacres against the Palestinian people throughout the Palestinian lands in Deir Yassin, Kafar Qasim, Shafa Amro, Al-Tantura and elsewhere, deporting more than 750,000 Palestinians. Strong struggle has been waged by the Palestinian people against the Israeli occupation, despite the shortage of military equipment which some Arab countries generously endowed later on the armed groups in Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan, but never on Palestine. On the 66th anniversary of al-Nakba, the Palestinian Liberation Army staff said, "The occasion is a black event in the history of the Arab nation, reminding us of the ugliest and most heinous crimes committed against humanity, represented in the occupation of Palestine and the deportation of its inhabitants. Those who have been laggards in supporting the Palestinian people for decades are the same sides who have used Arab oil money to finance the terrorists and extremists in order to destroy Syria, that has stood steadfast in the face of the attempts to liquidate the Palestinian people." On its part, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine General Command said, "The demise of the Zionist entity is a strategic and historical necessity that may be realized with the will of resistance." The front said, "The so-called Arab Spring is as dangerous as the Nakba of 1948. The universal war on Syria aims to target the Palestinian camps and force the Palestinians out of Syria, which is the only host of the resistance." The Syrian Tribes Forum has affirmed the tribesmen's keenness on the unity of the Syrian people. In its final statement following its meeting, which comprised more than 400 senior sheikhs and tribes chiefs, the forum stressed adherence to national unity, emphasizing that the Syrian people are the only source of the legitimate authority. A mass march was staged in Jabba village and the area surrounding Al-Qunaitira countryside in support of the Syrian Arab Army's confrontation of terrorism, the national principles, the upcoming elections, and the candidate to the post of president, Dr. Bashar al-Assad. The inhabitants of Al-Midan neighborhood have held a speech rally in solidarity with the Syrian Arab Army and the upcoming presidential elections. Parliamentarians at the Russian Duma Council have considered the upcoming presidential elections in Syria as a legitimate legal measure which represents for the Syrian people a sovereign right that no foreign side may be allowed to interfere in. Units of the Syrian Arab Army foiled an infiltration attempt by terrorists in the countryside, destroying a car carrying 10 terrorists equipped with 23mm machine gun. Another Syrian Arab Army unit destroyed an armored vehicle, killing and wounding all the terrorists inside. In Daraa western countryside, Syrian Arab Army units attacked terrorist gatherings in the town of Al-Jiza, Busra al-Sham and Maraba, as units of the Syrian Arab Army attacked terrorist dens near Al-Yarmouk school, post office building and the medical clinic in Daraa al-Balad, killing and wounding dozens of terrorists. Syrian Arab Army and armed forces inflicted heavy losses upon armed terrorist groups in the country, killing and injuring a number of terrorists and destroying their tools. Syrian Arab Army units foiled an armed terrorist group's infiltration attempt to Mehin village in Homs countryside, killing and injuring all its members. Syrian Arab Army units destroyed terrorist gathering in Sarmada in Idlib countryside with all the terrorists' vehicles, weapons and ammunition. Many terrorists were also killed and injured in the operation. Syrian Arab Army units eliminated a number of terrorists and injured others in Kafruma, Nahaliya and Taum. Syrian Arab Army units clashed with the armed terrorist groups in Al-Layramoun, Al-Amiriya and Al-Rashidin areas in Aleppo, killing and injuring a number of terrorists. The Syrian Arab Army units also targeted the terrorist hideouts and gatherings in Al-Sheikh Amir surrounding the central prison, in Bustan al-Qasr, the old city of Aleppo, Bani Zaid and Bustan al-Basha, killing and injuring a number of them. In Aleppo countryside, the Syrian Arab Army units killed and injured a number of terrorists in Mari', Tel Rifat, Kfar Da'il, Deir Hafer, Al-Atarib and Khan al-Asal, and destroyed a number of their vehicles with all weapons and ammunition inside them. In Iraq, 5 people have been killed and 12 others injured in a booby-trapped car explosion in the center of Baghdad. According to Iraqi sources, the car that was loaded with explosives had parked in Al-Karada quarter near the commercial neighborhood and some government offices. 3 civilians and 2 policemen were consequently killed and 12 others wounded. It is to be noted that 13 Iraqis were killed and 6 others were injured yesterday in separate terrorist attacks. The Turkish police has used tear gas bombs to disperse dozens of thousands of demonstrators in Izmir who had taken to the streets to protest against Erdogan government's negligence in the Soma mine explosion that occurred west of Turkey, claimed the lives of more than 270 workers. The Public Services Union's Federation has meanwhile called for a strike to protest negligence in protecting the safety of workers. Over to latest business and market news, but after a short break, stay tuned.